Your school has your back in the classroom.
Your team has your back on the field and on the court.
But without your commitment, you wouldn't be where you are today.
Since 1932, Bank of Clarendon has known it takes a team to keep your dreams on track, and that you are the most important piece of that equation.
So when you're ready to invest in your future, come see your local team first.
Your community, your bank, Bank of
Clarendon.
Clarendon. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
I started in high school, but I've always wanted to play since I was younger. It was kind of hard because we'd move from house to house or district to district, so it was hard to play a sport and stay in the sport, you know what I mean? When I was little, we had a house fire, and it was on land, so it burnt down the whole house. And we didn't have necessarily coverage on the house, but we had coverage on the land, so they couldn't do anything about it. So we would have to go stay with people and stuff like that until we got into a steady home. I didn't get into a steady home probably till high school. It was stressful. It was a lot of stress on my mom as well because, like, I deal with my father, but I've always stayed with my mother. So it was a lot of stress on her. She's really good. She's always been there for me, like with school or whatever, and she's always wanted me to be up there, like with straight A's and everything else like that. She showed that even through tough times, you can keep going. So it's just like, even if you're down 3 points, you still got a whole half left, you can come back, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you gotta keep going, even though it's hard. May not be looking good for you, but you still gotta keep going. That wasn't even the most part. After my aunt died and us moving around and stuff, that was probably the hardest part for me. When that happened, I got to the point where I was closed off about with emotions and stuff because it really did hurt. Like, I went to her house every other weekend, like it was like a constant thing. She'd come over. It was stressful. It was stressful on my mom as well because she had just lost her father. It honestly builds because it's like you get used to the pain, if that makes sense, because you know what to expect. So you don't always have to necessarily expect the worst because you can always see that there's better days. Because yes, my aunt died, but guess what? It took me a minute to get used to it, but I tried to be my best. My grades started to decline, but I talked to somebody and I started to get better grades. Like I made straight A's, like I got 4.6 GPA. Like I feel good about myself. Like it was hard, but once I got to the point where I felt like it was okay, everything was good. So I heard at the school on the announcement that there would be soccer, and I've always wanted to play soccer because when I was younger, my brother used to play, and I always wanted to play. It was just something I wanted to do. So I went down to the meeting, and they were like, oh, so we have conditioning coming up. So I went out to conditioning, and it felt like amazing. Like it was like that feeling again of, you know, when you're young, you're laughing, playing outside, running, and it doesn't matter. It felt like that, and it felt like I could just leave everything else on the field, win or loss. Everybody kept telling me like it was like natural, like because I played basketball and I played soccer, but honestly the main sport was soccer. When I played soccer, my first year they wanted me to play varsity. So I played about half of the season and we were golden. We didn't lose a single game and we got cut short because of COVID. About 2 years ago, I tore my ACL on the left leg, and that was a struggle because I missed being on the field so bad. It was like a mental battle mainly. And then when I was able to play, it was a fear of hurting my leg again because of how bad I wanted to play the sport. But after I played and practiced for a little bit, the fear was out of my head. Second time, I heard it this year, probably about 5 months ago. I had surgery like 3, but it was in the middle of a game. I jumped up, and it didn't feel like the normal one. Like it didn't feel like the first time. It just felt like it was tightness, and I got told it was tightness. That's why I didn't go to the doctor. And then it happened again at practice, so I went to the doctor, and they said I tore my ACL, and it was traumatic. And still to this day, sometimes I feel like I need to be on the field because that's how I deal with my emotions. And sometimes it gets hard, but I know during PT and doing all this, that I'm gonna get there to that point again when I'm able to play. Both ACLs and partially tore both meniscuses. Yes, my physical therapist, like he's working on my hips because you know your hips is a train for your whole leg. So he's working kind of everywhere on both sides just to make sure it's equal and I'm not putting more strain on one leg than I am the other. My mom, she was like, you keep hurting yourself. Why do you want to keep going back and play? And I told her it was love. I just can't quit because I really do love the sport. With injury or with not, I'll still go back to it.